Make a long story short.
To say something in simple words in a brief manner. For example, I decided to make the long story short and tell him what actually happened at the apartment.
On top of the world.
A state of extreme happiness. For example, Mrs. Emmy seemed to be on top of the world since she heard the news of her son's promotion.
Other fish in the sea.
More opportunities. More opportunities. For example, my father told me not to worry about the competition, as there would be other fish in the sea.
Pretty penny.
Expensive. For example, the dress she wants for her birthday will cost a pretty penny. The dress she wants for her birthday will cost a pretty penny.
Pros and cons.
The advantages and disadvantages of a situation. For example, teacher says to the students, there are pros and cons to every decision we make in life.
Red letter day.
Special occasion. Special occasion. For example, today is her red letter day. She always celebrates it with a big party.
Salt of the earth.
A good and honest person. A good and honest person. For example, my grandfather was the salt of the earth. He always helping others in need.
Snowed under.
To be busy. For example, my father seems to have been snowed under for the last few weeks. My father seems to have been snowed under for the last few weeks.
Spill the beans.
Reveal a secret. For example, Mike spilled the beans to Roni about their friend named Sandy. Mike spilled the beans to Roni about their friend named Sandy.
Stone's throw.
A short distance away. A short distance away. For example, the grocery store was just a stone's throw from my apartment.
The best of both worlds.
Good in every way. For example, having a best friend is the best of both worlds. Having a best friend is the best of both worlds.
Times is money.
To work quickly in the time that is left. For example, the manager encouraged the employees to realize that time is money and work harder.
In a nutshell.
To sum up the points and be brief. To sum up the points and be brief. For example, the teacher asked us to write the essay in a nutshell.
To the backbone.
The most important part of something. For example, she is a feminist to the backbone and fights for women's rights.
The backbone.
Providing support for everything else. For example, farming and tourism are the backbone of the country's economy.
Under the thumb.
To be controlled by someone. To be controlled by someone. For example, Derry realized that he was under the thumb of his overbearing boss.
Under the weather.
Getting a cold. Getting a cold. For example, Larry was feeling a bit under the weather. Larry was feeling a bit under the weather.
Walk on eggshells.
To be very careful with your actions and words. For example, talking to my mom about my grades made me feel like I was walking on eggshells.
Wear your heart on your sleeve.
To be extremely open about what you feel and think. For example, Donnie wears his heart on his sleeve. He tends to get hurt very often.
Worth its weight in gold.
To be highly valuable. For example, remember every word of what you say is worth its weight in gold.
Wrap your head around something.
Try to make sense about what is going on. For example, I was finding it hard to wrap my head around the fact that my daughter is getting married tomorrow.
Yeoman's service.
Diligent and valuable work. For example, the volunteer organization provided yeoman's service to the community after the natural disaster.
Apple of my eye.
Very important person and extremely fond of them. For example, Megan was a very charming little girl, bright student, and was the apple of her teacher's eyes.
Set the record straight.
To reveal the truth or to clarify. For example, John, let me set the record straight about what really happened last week.
Kill two birds with a stone.
Achieve two results by doing one thing. For example, I killed 2 birds with 1 stone and picked the kids up on the way to the supermarket.
A blessing in disguise.
Something that you think is bad but turns out to be a blessing. For example, illness confined him to the home, which was a blessing in disguise.
Worth its weight in gold.
To be highly valuable. For example, your grandmother's stories are worth their weight in gold, so you should try to record them or write them down.
To weather the storm.
To go through something difficult. For example, Fred insists that he will not resign and will weather the storm.
A piece of cake.
An easy task. For example, it's hard for Gilbert to talk with a girl. It's not a piece of cake for him.
Speak of the devil.
Said when a person appears just after being mentioned. For example, speak of the devil, Brian. We were just talking about you.